The creatures were about 4 foot. Some of the creatures were mangled, were heavily injured, and their bodies were torn apart. There were 4 aliens aboard that thing, and those aliens went to Los Alamos. And we were told that the extraterrestrial went to Kirtland Field, Kirtland Air Force Base, and then on to Los Alamos. 2 pathologists said there wasn't anything in the anatomy books. There wasn't anything in what our medical schools. They had never seen anything like this. First I thought it was a child. It was small. Then I looked at its head and all. The head was different. The arms were spindly. The body was gray. But the creatures were approximately 4 foot. They didn't appear to have any ears. They only had 2 orifices. They didn't have earlobes. They had 2 ear canals. They had indentation from the nose, very, very big eyes, and large eyes. The fingers had no thumbs, just 4 fingers. Suction devices on the tips of their fingers. You know, the 4 fragile fingers and the long arm. Real short joint. Almost looked like they were nude, but they actually had a very thin but tight-fitting suit on. No one was alive, partially alive at the time that this happened. It died in, I believe it was 1952. But the bodies of the extraterrestrials that were found at the scene were in a deep freeze. Placed in a deep freeze and sent to Wright Pat Field in Dayton, Ohio. The craft was more or less an oval or egg-shaped craft. It wasn't saucer-shaped. That particular craft, there were some problems with number 1, getting it on a flatbed to take it up to Area 51. The interior craft it didn't have any actual levers or flight control systems that we would identify as a flight control system. But they eventually, I think over some time, figured it out, and it was done all by hands. The creatures would put their hands on controls, and they'd have this headset on. And this headset would somehow control or help them control the aircraft. Roswell's almost become a joke because there's so much myth and narrative around it. But if you look at the Guy Hoddle document, it was a field agent sent to J. Edgar Hoover. 3 so-called flying saucers had been recovered in New Mexico. Each one was occupied by 3 bodies of human shape, but only 3 feet tall. The case has become the #1 document viewed on the FBI website after we released this. They were between 3.5 feet to 4 feet tall. They were perfect teeth. They were childlike in appearance. They had jumpsuits on that were like a powder-colored blue. They were charred, blue uniforms on. Nothing that would signify rank. The beings are 3 to 4 feet tall and weigh 25 to 50 pounds. They have grayish skin and large heads with almond-shaped wraparound eyes. They have very slight nose, mouth, and ear positions and are hairless. What kind of proof do you have that that is true? How do you know that? Well, let me take a look. Let me read to you first what the Air Force says about the bodies. First of all, I'm going to read from the Introductory Space Science, Volume 2, Department of Physics, United States Air Force. This is Chapter 13, Unidentified Flying Objects. This is what the Air Force has the students at the Air Force Academy read. It says, the most commonly described alien is about 3.5 feet tall, has a round head, arms reaching to or below his knees, and is wearing a silvery spacesuit or coveralls. Other aliens appear to be essentially the same as Earthmen, while still others have particularly wide, wraparound eyes and mouths with very thin lips. There's a rare group reported to be about 4 feet tall, weight of around 35 pounds, and covered with thick hair for clothing. Members of this last group are described as being extremely strong. Now, I'm not making this up. This is an Air Force. You can pick out an Air Force physics book and read this stuff, and at the end of the chapter they go on to say, this leads us to believe in the unpleasant possibility of alien visitors to our planet, or at least of alien-controlled UFOs.